Namaskar and a very warm welcome to Political Economy with Shweta Punj. Well, it is budget season. We're barely 3 weeks away from the day when Ms. Sitharaman will unveil her 10th budget. Now, it's often said that budget is a media exercise. Nobody really cares about the budget. It really does not make a difference and so on. However, as we kick off our budget series today, we want to tell you that this is the most important economic document that you should really care about. It is in fact the only credible document, the most credible piece of information and numbers that can give you an idea, that can give you an accurate picture about where India stands on its finances, on what India's focus areas are, and where is India headed. So this is why this budget is so important, and we are hoping to really declutter the whole budget terminology through this podcast, through this episode. Why is the union budget important? What is important in the union budget, and what does it tell us? Like I said just a little while ago, that it is the most important document that tells us three things. What is the government spending on? And there's a lot of secrecy around this budget. This budget is presented within 2 hours, but it takes about 7-8 months to prepare. The first part of the process of budget preparation includes sending out a circular within the ministry and across all ministries to get a sense of how different departments are thinking about spending in the coming year. They present their estimates to the finance ministry, and the finance ministry vets those estimates. Then these estimates are recalibrated and they are calculated. Besides that, besides the ministerial inputs from different ministries, there is also extensive stakeholder consultations. The government, as we report, and it's often reported in the media, the government will reach out to industry, the government will reach out to economists, it will reach out to MSMEs, it will reach out to exporters to get a sense of what their problems are, what their issues are, what is it that they would like to see in the budget. And the whole point about this interaction is to ensure that the budget document is inclusive and it works in a productive and a positive manner to take industry forward, to take India forward. So there's extensive stakeholder consultation, and this whole budget making exercise is done in extreme secrecy, because this budget document is a very crucial document for the markets, especially because what the budget lays out or what the budget will focus on will determine the fortune, the fate of several companies. Now, focus areas for the government will mean that those sectors and companies operating in those sectors will end up doing better than the others, which is why this information is very, very crucial. It gives a strong indication of India's priorities as a country, and which is why it is closely monitored across the world. If India is spending on AI, or if India is spending on building roads and highways, it gives an indication to companies across the world that India is open for business and India is looking for investments in these sectors. It helps them draw up their business plans. It helps the investor community to invest their money according to the sectors, according to government priorities. So it spells out India's priorities as a country. Now, if India is spending on unproductive assets, or if it's spending primarily on, say, freebies and so on, it gives an indication to the world that India is only interested in politics. However, if India lays out a very strong development-focused agenda, and when I say development-focused, it means when India decides to spend on productive assets, on building productive assets, it means India means business, which again gives a very positive indication to the world that India is thinking progress and development, which is why this is a very crucial piece of document. It's a very crucial document, which is why you need to be interested in it. It's just not about the tax breaks, or it's just not about how much money will you save. Ultimately, it comes down to how many jobs will get created, how much productivity will be unleashed into the economy. Will the world be interested in looking at India as an investment destination? What are the sectors that they'll be excited about, and so on. It gives us an account of India's finances. Now, what do I mean by that? Just like households, you and I manage our finances, which means that we decide according to our earning capabilities. We decide how much are we going to spend, how much debt are we going to take on, if at all. If we are taking on debt to finance, say, future education, which is a good debt, or are we taking on more debt to, say, buy a cell phone, for instance? Now that's bad debt. Now, this is how our home finances are primarily managed, and this is exactly what the union budget will also present. It will present an account of India's finances. How much is India spending on? What is it spending on? How much is it earning? And most importantly, how much debt are we taking on to spend, and to spend on what? Are we taking on debt to build more highways, ports, roads, dams, or are we taking on more debt to give out freebies? That's very, very crucial. Now, let me go over some crucial terms that you should watch out for in the budget. Capital expenditure. Capital expenditure is how much the government is spending on the creation of long-term assets. This is good spending because it enables an economy's productivity. Like I said, it could be spending on roads, highways, dams, etc. It also includes loans given by the center to the states. Then there is revenue expenditure, which is how much a government spends in the day-to-day operations. It does not create any assets with this. It is only expenditure for running of day-to-day operations of the government. For example, if I were to calculate my revenue expenditure, it would be how much am I paying on rent, electricity, say my my petrol bill. All of that would come into my revenue expenditure. Then this also includes interest and subsidies. Interest taken on loans, because India, like other countries, takes on loans to spend money, because until now we are still running a fiscal deficit, which means we earn less than what we spend. So this is a snapshot of how government finances are important and the terms that you should watch out for. I spoke about the fiscal deficit. Let me reiterate, fiscal deficit again is a very important number. It is the difference between how much the government is spending and how much the government is earning. So at the moment, for data until November 2024, India's fiscal deficit is at 8.47 lakh crore rupees. Now what does that mean? It means that India so far until November had spent 8.47 lakh crore rupees more than what it had earned. We'll get the final number later when the budget is presented, and before the budget is presented there's an economic survey also which gives you a very clear picture of government's finances, but this is again a very, very important number. Fiscal deficit currently is down to single digits, which means that our fiscal deficit is in much better shape than what it was in the past. Having said that, it is still relatively on the higher side. Now let's look at how does the government earn. It earns primarily through taxes, direct taxes and indirect taxes. Now direct taxes are like corporate tax, income tax. You and I pay it. It's something that we pay. It's directly cut from our income, and corporate tax rate works Similarly, for corporates, which was cut down from 30% to 25% some time ago. Indirect tax is what consumers pay indirectly for a service or a good, like customs duty, excise, and so on. For instance, if I buy something which was imported into the country, the price of that will also include a customs duty to it. And that is something that I, as a consumer, will have to pay for. Government also earns through other policy initiatives like disinvestment, asset monetization. Now, what is disinvestment? Disinvestment is when the government decides to offload stake in companies that it has stake in. Now, there are a lot of PSUs which are either 100% owned by the government, or the government has a controlling stake, or the government even sometimes is a minority stakeholder. So the government for the past few years has been setting out a disinvestment agenda. There are multiple reasons for it. One of them is, of course, it's good for governance, that you let the private sector run businesses and government gets out from the business of running businesses, but it also serves an important revenue purpose. The second is asset monetization. Government owns massive assets across the country. It owns prime assets within big cities. Railways, for instance, all the railway stations that the government owns, there's massive land, all of that. So in the last few years, the government has embarked on a mission to monetize these assets, which means that the government is letting out these assets to the private sector to come in, set shop, make them more productive, and pay them rent. So that's been another exercise which has been undertaken to increase revenue capacity. Now, the big issue here is, now we went through how does the government earn. It earns primarily through taxes and then disinvestment and what I said, asset monetization. These are the key ways through which the government earns. And then, of course, it takes on loans to finance its spending because it has to. And now one of the key reasons for that is that India's tax base is amongst the lowest in the world. According to estimates, only 1 to 2% of India's population pays taxes. That's abysmally low. That means that 98% of India's economy currently does not pay taxes directly. Indirectly, of course, when they buy a product or a service, they are paying tax. But directly, nearly 98% of the economy depends on this 2%. So all the roads, highways, all the economic activity that you see, which is financed by the taxpayers' money, actually depends on this minuscule percentage of companies and individuals who are paying taxes. So a large economy like India, fifth largest economy of the world, is being run on very minuscule percentage of people and companies who are eligible to pay taxes or who are paying taxes. To give you an example, the United States, for instance, 80% of the country there pays taxes. So when any freebies are announced, whether it is free electricity, whether it is free education, whether it is free food grains, it is being done out of taxpayers' money. Well, we've given you an overview on why the budget making and the budget document is not just a media exercise. It's an important piece of document. It's an important piece of information, very, very crucial, to give you a sense of how much is the government thinking about the future. Is the government investing in industries, in sectors that will be job creators going forward, or is the government spending more to keep the electorate happy, majority of the electorate happy, by doling out freebies? Remember, there are no free lunches. Remember, if the balance sheet of your country's economy is not healthy, it does not bode very well for the rupee. It can be inflationary, which means that your own spending power, your own earning capacity goes down. We hope to keep coming back to you with more of such explainers, and to really break down the budget making process and to give you a very nuanced perspective of India's economy. Thanks so much for watching, and do send us your thoughts and feedback on moneycontrol.com.